What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down 8 of the best routes you can run in one-on-ones to always get open. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you'd like to get some work in with myself and my staff of coaches this offseason, we're traveling out to 15 more states across the U.S. for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver camps. So we're going to be coming out to San Francisco, Orlando, New Orleans, Charlotte, Dallas, the DMV, St. Louis, Honolulu, Boston, Cleveland, Austin, Seattle, Newark, Denver, and Los Angeles. So if you guys are local, would like to get some work in with us for 2 days in a small group setting, it's not going to be a million kids out there like a lot of these other camps. Check out that very first link below, fellas. A lot of great coaching and a lot of detailed coaching for you. Let's get started with this video. So now, first route we're going to be talking about today, starting with the eighth one, is going to be a 10-yard out with a peek back technique. So I love this route against press coverage, against one-on-one. So let's play at full speed. So this is Antonio Brown using this peek back move with his eyes and then breaking this thing right off to self fade. So what is a peek back move? A peek back move is exactly how it sounds. You were peeking back to the quarterback, trying to sell like you were getting this fade ball over the top. So now on every single route, whether it's a 5-yard hitch, 15-yard comeback, what do we have to sell? We have to be selling fade. So this is just another way to do it. It's a little bit more creative way to do it. So when he gets to the top of the break, you see how he snaps his eyes to the QB. That's going to put the DB on alert. Now, DB is not supposed to be looking at your eyes anyways, but this kind of is just like icing on the cake, right? Because if you're running a fade, you're running full speed, you're running in full stride, you have a good pad level, and you peek back with those eyes, that really gets him to overcommit and think that fade ball is coming, which can get you separation on this break. Now, another thing that he does so well when he throws this peek back move is he doesn't raise up his chest. So many wide receivers, when they try to do this peek back, whether they're peeking back and running a comeback, an out route, a corner, whatever it is, they will peek back and they will start to lean back. And then their stride starts to shorten up. They start to slow down. All of those things take away from you selling vertical. So I almost like to call it like a glance back. Like you're just simply glancing over that inside shoulder at the QB to make this DB thing fade, but I still maintain my speed, my stride, and my body language. If I can do all of that, I guarantee you, fellas, that will get a DB to commit to that fade, and we could get separation. So coming in at number 8 is that peek back out route, one of the best routes to get separation in one-on-ones. Play it again full speed, attacks his leverage, takes the outside release, peeks back, and then is able to break this thing right off to win on that out route. Okay, so now, next route here is going to be a tempo change comeback route. So coming in number 7, tempo change comeback route against press. So let's play this full speed. This is CeeDee Lamb. So he comes off here, changes tempo, accelerates, and then breaks this thing right off. And you see how he also throws a little peek back move in there. That's not necessary, but definitely can help if you guys want to kind of add that to this specific move. So when we got a DB, and again, when it comes to winning one-on-ones, fellas, when it comes to any kind of one-on-one matchup from you and a DB, off man, press man, every single route, we have to make him think fade. That should always, always be my mindset because trust me, especially if you're on the younger side, youth ball, high school ball, that's the name of the game. You know, for so many DBs, they can't handle that. They've never seen that before, a guy who can run good routes and sell vertical legitimately. So watch what Lamb does here. He comes off the ball fast, and then he gives a little tempo change skip. Because when we change tempo, the DB is going to match our tempo. Now, usually, what do wide receivers like to change tempo on? Like double moves. They'll run off. They'll be running like a fade ball. They stutter a little bit, then they accelerate. So that's what we're trying to make it look like. Just like that peek back. What are you peeking back for? You're peeking back acting like the ball is coming. So this is you're changing tempo, acting like I tried to get you to change tempo and I'm accelerating. So that's what we have to make it look like. So a tempo comeback, tempo change comeback. We accelerate, go from 100 to 0, then burst up to 100 again. Get that DB to flip his hips. We sell by running in full stride. You're running hard. Your pad level is committed. What do I mean by pad level? I mean that like before you guys break down, we are not like raising up my pad level. So many wide receivers, like not even on just like, you don't even have to be doing a peek back. They'll just be running straight vertical with their eyes forward. And because it's easier, they kind of raise up and then snap down. Fellas, we cannot do that. A DB is watching our hips more so than he is watching our eyes. So when we do this tempo change comeback, I got to be slow, then 100. And when I burst up to that full speed 100%, I got to make sure I don't give any indicators. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Lamb changing up tempos and then accelerating up vertical to force that DB to flip his hips. So coming in at number 6, sixth best route to run in one-on-ones would be a dive release 10-yard out. So I know we talked about a peek back 10-yard out, but what about a dive release 10-yard out? So let's play this full speed. So when we get man coverage here, a dive release is a great way to get separation because that DB is guaranteed going to chase you across the field. And so anytime that you come up to the line and you get like head up press, or maybe some cases, maybe inside shade press, I would say, a dive release is a great way to get open when you have an out route. So if this DB, what's a route that is very weak, or is very strong, I should say. What route is very strong against man coverage? And that's a drag, right? Like if I'm an offensive coordinator and I know a team likes to run a lot of like cover one, let's say, where my quarterback's not going to be getting a ton of pressure, we'll be getting a little bit, but we have some time. I'm going to run a lot of mesh where like I'm going to take the two wide receivers, like let's say these are both slot receivers, and I'm going to have them both run drags because that's going to force those guys to chase them 50 yards across the field. And we like our odds there. Believe me, we like our odds as an offense on that. So that's what we were trying to sell. So what Amari Cooper does such a great job of here is when he does this dive release, it's two hard steps tacking the inside, getting him to flip his hips. So you're going to be stepping right, left. Now, those two steps have to gain ground. We have to be running in full stride, and I have to be committed. Route running is all about being a salesman, in case you haven't noticed, right? The first two routes we talked about, you're being a salesman with your eyes. Second route we talked about, you're being a salesman by changing up your speed on the route. This one, you're being a salesman by making this route look like a drag, but it's all the same concepts. You need to commit your hips and shoulders. You need to run in full stride. You need to actually run hard because that is what makes the DB bite. That's like the art of deception there, fellas. So when I get him to bite, now we can slip back to the outside. I got plenty of space to work. I could get skinny and break off on that out route. So dive release 10-yard out is one of the best routes to run in that one-on-one situation. So coming in at number 6, dive release 10-yard out. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Cooper diving, pushing back up vertical, and then breaking that thing right off. Okay, so now coming in at number 5, this is going to be a shock release fade ball. So this is for you bigger wide receivers. So if you're coming up and you got a one-on-one situation and you are a bigger wide receiver and you are running a goal line fade, a deep fade, whatever it is, a shock release is one of the best things that you can use. So you might ask me, what is a shock release? A shock release is essentially where you just almost like block this guy and bully this guy off the line. I only recommend this for bigger wide receivers, or maybe guys who are on like the slower side of things, but they're pretty physical. So let's play this full speed. He comes off, just a simple shock release. This is not a flag. It is within 5 yards. This would be considered hand fighting, but it's just a way for you guys to get a little bit of separation when you're on the goal line. So many wide receivers, especially the big guys, man, when they got a goal line fade, they will just simply take off and go run to the corner. They'll set go and they'll just take off and go run because they're bigger and they're like, oh, the quarterback's just going to throw the ball up high. But when you face a DB who's actually worth it and he's actually pretty good and he's going to get hands into your hip and squeeze you to that sideline, he's going to try to put his hands as hard as he can and use his entire body to squeeze you to that sideline. Even if you do catch the ball, you're going to be pretty much out of bounds at that point. So you need to give him something inside. Now, a lot of wide receivers, you shift to your guys. Like instead of shock releasing him, you'll maybe attack him, give him a move inside, whatever it is. But if you're a bigger guy, let's use that size to our advantage. We go at him. We focus on getting low. We are driving from my legs, driving from my hips. That's why strengthening those areas is so important in the gym because now I got some separation. I got maybe a little more separation than I would have if I tried to beat him with my footwork and being, a salesman trying to threaten him inside with a slant. So a shock release fade coming in at number 5. That is a 5th best route that you guys can run, or not 5th best, but 5 out of 8 best that you guys can run against one-on-one. So let's play at full speed. So great job using that shock release, getting low, driving from his legs and his hips to win on that fade. Okay, so now coming in at number 4. This is going to be a hesitation hop stop route. So again, comes down, I love a stop route in one-on-ones just because I feel like it's a great way to get this DB's hips to flip. But obviously we want to change a little bit of tempo off the line that can get him to overreact. So that's what this is. Gosh, Kyle Phillips. That's what Kyle Phillips is doing right here. So let's play at full speed. So he hesitates, hops to the inside, and then snaps his thing right off and runs that stop route. So let's talk about it, right? When he comes off, I want you to see his footwork on this. So it's just like a simple hop step to the inside. But watch how he kind of gears up for it. He takes this kind of punch step with his back foot and then hops to the inside. Now, that punch step kind of gets him some twitch to it. It gets him some explosion, some balance. And then that hesitation hop to the inside is getting that DB to kind of stop his feet. So when we burst up to the outside, we can get him to open up and overcommit. But again, it comes down to making it look like making it look like a fade route, just like the same thing we discussed in the first two examples. You have to be a salesman. You have to use that art of deception to get that DB to open up and run. So again, he hesitates, gets his feet to stop a little bit, changes tempo, and then he accelerates outside. Head down. Hips and shoulders committed fades. So many wide receivers, what they'll do is before they break down, they will start to turn the right hip and turn the right shoulder. They don't let the hip slow them down. That hip drop, fellas, is what will put the brakes on for you on this stop route, and that's why it's so dangerous in one-on-ones. Because the hip drop is what slows you down, not a change in speed. So many wide receivers think that I got to slow down my speed and then get into a break. That's not it. You got to use your hips to slow you down. The faster you can get low, the more energy you create, and the quicker you're going to decelerate on a dime. And that's what we want. So when he bursts up vertical here, gets a DB to flip, he's running hips, right? The hip drop, him dropping his butt down, bringing his chin to his knee, that puts the brakes on. And that's why this stop route is so dangerous. Because when you can master that, this stop route should work 10 out of 10 times if we know how to get that DB to open up. And we could do it with that hesitation hop release. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job hesitating, pushing up vertical, and then dropping those hips to create separation from the DB. Okay, so now, next route that I would like to discuss is going to be a stop and go. So this builds off of the stop, maybe not something that you would want to use back to back because it's a little bit, like telegraphed. And, in this video too, I want to mention this, fellas. I bring up one-on-ones and stuff like that only because so many of you guys go through one-on-ones, whether you're at a camp, whether you're at a practice, and it's a competition environment. And, while sometimes it might not be the most realistic thing, when it is realistic, this is kind of the best determining factor of how good a DB is in man coverage and how good a wide receiver is against man coverage. And you want those guys who are going to win against man on your team, whether I'm a college coach or a high school coach. So just know that. Now, some of you might think it's one-on-ones, doesn't matter. You get plenty of one-on-one opportunities in a game. That's just what we're calling it, but fellas, this is stuff that's going to actually get you better in a real game. I'm not going to give you stuff that's fake. That's only going to work when it's t-shirt and shorts. So let's look at this stop and go here. So there's the same thing, but again, gets the DB to sit and we can accelerate. Now I love this stop and go in one-on-ones because it can look the exact same. Not only to get separation against man coverage do we have to be a salesman, but we have to do something called pairing routes and pairing releases together. So let's say, for example, this was like Kyle Phillips in the last. It's not Kyle Phillips, but let's say it is. This is Sky Moore. But he comes off, gives a little hesitation move to the inside, and he pushes up vertical, right? So he knows he's running this stutter go, but we're trying to make everything about this look like a route I just ran. So he pushes up to the outside. He gives a little hip drop and drops his weight. DB's maybe seen that before. DB has seen this on film before. That's another big one. You pair your routes off of film. Let's say one week you caught a bunch of stop route after another. Next week, you're going to be running stop and go. Let's try to make it look the same. Let's make it look like something this DB has seen before because those DBs love to guess. And when those DBs guess, we can make them pay over the top by catching a big one over the shoulder. So we hesitate here for a second. We drop my hips, get the DB to stop his hips, and then I can win. And I love this route because the quarterback can get it out relatively early. Some of you might think, well, if it's one-on-one, it's man coverage, quarterback might not have that much time for me to do a double move. But on a stop and go, let me tell you this, as soon as you drop your hips right here, that QB is letting the ball go, or at least he should be. But he's putting air on it. He's not trying to put it on a line. He's putting air on the ball because he knows that you are going to accelerate, keep your head down. That's a big one. So many guys after this stutter go, they start to look back for the ball, and that kills it. But a lot of it's on the quarterback too. The quarterback throws it late. The quarterback can't make it that far. QBs, we have to put this ball up early with air. So when we drop my head down and I stutter and I get him to sit, okay, now I could widen the distance with him a little bit because my quarterback put it on the right spot, and that is why that stutter go or stop and go is so dangerous in one-on-ones. If you guys do it correctly, quarterback puts it out on time, this is an unguardable route, fellas. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Moore, making it look the same with the hesitation release, dropping his hips to decelerate, and then being able to accelerate upfield. All right, so now, this is one of my all-time favorite routes to work against man coverage one-on-ones, and that is a wide step post route. So wide step post is where we step with this back foot. We step wide outside the DB's frame, try to get him to jump outside, and we take the inside release on a post. But it is very, very important that we get skinny on this route, because if we get skinny and we do it correctly, there is no guarding this. So let's play at full speed. So this wide receiver does like a wide step release, gets skinny at the break point, and uses that kind of body to create separation from this DB. So let's play it again. So what is a wide step? Like I said, it's exactly how it sounds. You step with this back foot and you're trying to step wide, trying to threaten this DB outside to move him off the platform. So you see how he uses this like kind of kick step with his back foot. That kick step that he takes right here with his right foot, that step, the sole purpose of that is to load up his hips so he can throw his hip and actually step wide, because this is the only way we get a DB to move with this wide step. I have to commit my hips and my shoulders and actually threaten him to the outside. If I don't get to here, this release is not going to work. You see how he starts off the ball, but he ends up almost past this line right here, almost past this yard line? That's what we want to do. We want to attack at a 45, and we want to step outside of his frame, not my frame, step outside of his frame with this wide step, because that's what's going to get this DB to move off the platform just a little bit. So he kick steps, uses that wide step, and gets the DB to move. Now, we could use this against head up. We could use this against outside shade press. Don't really mind which one you use it against. I just don't like it against inside shade. Head up or outside shade is when I would use that. So now when we take this inside release on the post, so many wide receivers will get that DB to jump, and they're running this post, and they take a very wide angle and break to the post. But again, when you take a very wide angle off the line, you're giving that DB time to recover. He's got the sharper angle, and he'll be able to recover. So we have to make sure that we try to go hip to hip with this DB. I get him to move off the line, I'm not afraid of contact. I got him to move, I am hip to hip with him. You see how he's staying tight to him. He is not running away and then pushing up vertical, because all that does is give the DB time to recover. Use your body, use your size to your advantage. So he gets the DB to jump outside, like we said. He stays tight, hip to hip, because now at the break point, he can start to do that lean technique, or some people call it a chicken wing technique. I've called it that in the past, where you start to lean into this DB with your body, because you know you're going to be breaking this route off on a post or on a dig. And if you just kind of round to the inside and round off the break, that's not the right timing for the QB, and that's not the right depth for the QB. Not to mention, if this DB has safety help over the middle, you're running right into it. So what he does is he gets skinny. He starts to lean. He starts to use his pad level, or use his body language, or his body, I should say, to get into the DB's frame. So when he makes that cut, DB naturally will widen, and that creates a bigger window for the quarterback if there's a safety over the middle, but also it puts it on time with the play. The quarterback is expecting us, like let's say this is a 12-yard post, he's expecting us to break right at 12. He's not expecting us to just round it off at 8 and drift up to 12. He's expecting us to push vertical and get to 12. So that's why getting skinny, being hip to hip, and using that lean technique is a great way to do that. So that's why this wide step post route is one of my favorite routes that you can run in one-on-one. So let's play at full speed. Great job getting the DB to move off the platform, and then getting into that cushion and getting into that frame. Okay, so now coming in number one, my favorite, this is the last clip we're going to go over, my favorite wide receiver route that you can run against man coverage one-on-ones is a reduced split. So you're going to cut your split down like you're out of the slot, and you run a rocker step corner with an inside release. So the reason why I like this so much is because there's really not much a DB can do if you do this correctly. He has to honor it. He has to honor the fake, and you're also giving the quarterback a very easy throw. So let's play this thing full speed. So this wide receiver gives a little jab off the line, takes the inside release, rocker step. So a rocker step is pretty much like you're faking the post in one step, right? And he ends up making the catch. So a rocker step, I want to make this clear before we break it down, is like when you get to the top of the break, and instead of just like breaking off of your right foot on a corner, you go left, then right to sell like you're running a post. And if you do this correctly, it should work every time. So let's play it. Let's break it down. So the reason why I like this, reason why I said all those things, I want a reduced split. So I want the wide receiver from the outside to cut his split down. Because when you cut your split down as a wide receiver, automatically, if I'm a DB and I'm in man coverage one-on-one, or it's one-on-ones, I should be thinking outside breaking route. Why would he cut his split down when he has all that space to the outside to run like a dig or a post? So he's going to be outside shade because he's kind of he's pretty much guessing on it, right? He's guessing that, okay, I can anticipate that you're going to be running an outside route. And in a real game scenario, because like I said, I'm not going to give you guys anything that you can't use in a real scenario, he would probably have safety help to the inside. So he's outside shade. He's actually fine with us running the post. He just does not want to give up the outside. So what this wide receiver does, why I love this route, he does it perfectly. Could have maybe attacked him a little bit. Right concept, I should say. He didn't do it perfectly because I think he maybe could have attacked him a little more, like given a harder move, given more of a fake to the outside just to hold the DB. But nonetheless, he attacks him, and we get the DB to kind of just settle for a second, right? He settles. He probably needs to keep his feet moving, be a little bit more active, but we're able to dip the shoulder and take the inside release on an outside breaking route. There are so many receiver coaches out there that will say, oh, you should never take an inside release on an outside route. That's completely false. You have to take what the DB gives you because you have to keep timing with your QB. If you go back to the very beginning and you see he's outside shade, and let's say he tries to fake inside and then go outside, his sole responsibility is to not let anybody go outside. So he's going to stay square. He's going to force you to the sideline. And even if you do get the outside release and you break to that corner, you're going to have maybe 3 yards. It's not enough space for the quarterback. Believe me, he will not throw you the ball if you were getting squeezed to that sideline, because if he throws that late or you're not on time, that is a pick six. I'd rather have you take the inside release and work at the top of the route so I have some space to throw you open. And that's exactly what goes down. So you see how he goes here. Takes the inside release, dips the shoulder, that's why. So now he's able to actually get him into a position where he restacks, where this DB is trailing our back hip. Now, if this DB were hip to hip, we would maybe want to go with something a little different. If he's like slightly ahead of me or if he's hip to hip with me, I probably can't use the rocker step. I got to be prepared and use something we call a throw by, where I would take my left hand and swat his right shoulder or right hip to slip under him. But guess what? I got all this space to the sideline now for my QB to throw me open. I won't get that space if I just run to the outside and he reroutes me. You guys have to understand that if you want to be a successful receiver. But luckily, we're able to restack. This is the easier one. So he throws that rocker step to the inside. He does it out, in, gets the DB to hesitate for a second, and he keeps that head down and accelerates to the ball. That is exactly how you want to run that. So that's why that is my number one route for one-on-ones. The best route DB cannot guard is a reduced split, inside release, corner route, trying to use a rocker step or a throw by. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job attacking him, dipping that shoulder to get the inside release, and giving the QB plenty of space to throw us open. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. We always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys as usual. And again, fellas, if you would like to come out to one of our off-season training camps this year, we are coming out to 15 more cities listed below, or listed on the screen, I should say. We'd love to have you out, like I've said in the past. It's a lot of work for you guys. It's 8 hours of training. You guys are going to get a lot better and tons of information from us because, again, small group setting. It's not a million kids out there. We don't do stuff like that. So check out that very first link in the description below, guys. I'll see you next time.